So we're looking at the physiology of the dragons here. See these features here?
Oh, hello! Welcome!
Hello! How are you?
We were just getting started.
Get a cup of tea. Settle in.
Hello, my name is Dani Dakota, and I am here at the Dragon Preservation Society of Staunton headquarters. And I'm here with Leftentant Blackwolf.
Hello, everyone.
In order to answer some questions that were sent in by you. To help us ask those questions is Professor Wildridge. So, what is the first question that we have?
Can dragons control the weather?
That's a very good question. And it relates to a video you just did recently.
It does. Recently, I spoke about how fog dragons can change the temperature around them, which created fog. Now, for weather, it's not that dragons can control the clouds themselves, but for instance, storm dragons are very normally found following storms, as that is where their best hunting grounds are.
Right you are. In fact, there's a local legend west of Staunton of a rather large storm dragon that has been seen during very significant storms.
Next question. What is the difference between a hydro and a pyro?
Oh, we'll have to study about our Greek here a little bit, shall we?
Water and fire in Greek is hydro and pyro. This is the breath type that a dragon might be. There's also other ones that are for gases or ices, but we're not going to go into that today. Hydros is a water breath. This could be a sea dragon, a river dragon, or any type of dragon that has a water-based breath. A pyro is like a magma dragon, a lava dragon, or a fire dragon. Therefore, they have fire-based breaths.
Ready for the next question?
Oh, we
Of
are.
course.
What does dragon poop look like?
That I think is in your realm there.
Oh, I know too much about dragon poop. For any of you trainees of DOP, you may know that we're going to do a class soon about dragon biology. Dragons eat different things, and some things they're not supposed to eat, which then can be traveled into their poop. There are dragons that have small poop, like rodent size, or there's very large poop. No.
What is the technical term we use for poop?
Scat?
Yes, this sounds so much better.
All right. Have you ever come across a dragon's nest? And if so, what did it look like?
Oh, this also you did recently.
I see that's most of my trainees that have asked these questions. Dragon nests can come in a whole bunch of different shapes. That's one amazing thing about dragons is they're so unique in each species. With the fog dragon nest that we saw, it was kind of hidden in some rocks. But with some fire dragons or fire drakes, they almost make like an oven around the nest and the egg. Therefore, they can shoot fire and keep the egg into a nice warm glow, as is told in the Compendium of Dragon Observation.
Yeah, it's amazing finding these scorched stones and the broken shells about from recently hatched fire drakes. And of course, one always wonders not only where are the chicks, the hatchlings, where's mama?
Yeah, do not touch dragon nests, as I've said in previous videos, as dragon eggs can be extremely dangerous and mothers are even worse.
Alrighty. Do all dragons fly?
Oh, very good. Interestingly enough, when you think of dragons, you think of the great winged beasts, 4 legs, or 2 legs and wings and such. But But no, not all dragons have wings. Not all dragons have the ability to fly. Interestingly enough, many sea dragons do not have the ability to fly, whereas many terrestrial dragons do have the ability to swim, and swim very well. There are certain Asian dragons that do not fly, and there are certain Scandinavian worms that do not fly.
But it doesn't mean that all dragons without wings can't fly. There are some great dragons that are able to almost act like a snake in the sky, and it's honestly beautiful to watch.
These are indeed.
Can dragons sing?
There's an interesting story about that. Yes, many dragons sing wonderfully. In Austria, you may have seen the Alpine horns. Alpine horns, I believe they're called. Great long horns that send forth this deep resonance tone. Fantastic to watch and hear these things. Sometimes you will hear a distant answer from the mountains nearby. While some people think that's just the echo, it's actually certain dragons that live in that area responding. And originally the Alpine horns were used to call and communicate with these dragons.
Do dragons have different size classifications?
Oh my goodness. If you know anything about me, I love miniature dragons, which is one of the classifications. You have very small dragons that we call minis. These can be dragons that are from the size of a small moth to the size about a songbird. Then you have small dragons, medium or average dragons. Then you have large, and then you have titan dragons, which titan dragons, I think the largest we've ever had at the sanctuary was about the size of maybe a 12-story building?
That was a large dragon.
That's the reason that the dome has gotten so big recently.
Yes, indeed.
Are there any dragons that have fur?
Indeed so. In fact, recently I've been writing in the journal about Arctic dragons and winter dragons and that sort of thing with the being in January and being so cold and so much snow. And of course, yes, there are certain dragons that do have fur or feathers. And some of these smaller dragons, like you were talking about the moth-sized dragons and a little bit bigger, they have some beautiful fur.
Oh, tell me about it.
What is your favorite dragon?
Oh, well, speaking of mini dragons, I have to say that my favorite has always been a small feathered dragon. They're almost like little birds with beautiful long tails.
Absolutely, I like those as well. My particular favorite are fire drakes. Have a lot of experience around fire dragons of various types and sizes and such. And I've always found them to be very fascinating. And I guess the challenge of being able to observe them without turning into a shish kebab is also very rewarding as well.
Can dragons speak English or any other human language?
Well, dragons are extremely intelligent. I don't think I've ever seen a horde dragon speak English just as it knows. But some illegal pets, dragons, have been known to learn and understand some English, almost like a parrot would. Or like that one seal that learned how to speak in his owner's accent. So it's not that they know it from birth, but I definitely believe that they could mimic and
learn it. There are some very intelligent dragons, of course, that speak, and they speak in their own tongue, dragon tongue, or dragon speak, even I've heard it called. And so there are other types of communication that dragons do besides speaking. There's writing that can be found, and of course the songs are a type of communication, and the calls and such that they do. But I have on occasion seen dragons conversing amongst themselves. I wonder what they were talking about.
It's quite terrifying.
Are all fire dragons red?
Well, the majority of them are. And mostly it's because it has to do with warning other creatures, especially other dragons, that they are not to be trifled with. as many poisonous fruits that you may find in nature are red, so that creatures don't eat them. The fire dragons are recognized as a fire dragon being red. That way the other creatures respect them for what they are and what they are capable of, because they certainly will defend themselves, which brings us to safety. One should never really meddle in the affairs of red dragons or fire drakes. Yes, you're flammable. Don't go near them.
All right, leading to the next question. Can you have a dragon as a pet?
No. Don't.
Highly advised not to.
That's just a straight up no. Dragons are... They're still wild beasts. They are very destructive, and even with the small mini dragons, I've seen one house that we had to go in, and there was literally holes in the wall where the mini had dug through making nests.
And don't be taken by their size. I mean, just because it's a smaller dragon does not make it a safer dragon. Not by any means.
Oh, no dragon's a safe dragon.
So I guess you've already answered the next one. Are all dragons big?
No.
No.
And talking in the classifications, right? Certainly not. There's many average sized dragons. I think the truly large ones are much more rare than the smaller dragons.
I think in all of my time, even just in Dolp's time, we've only ever seen 2 titans.
Yeah, maybe the most. Yes.
Yeah, and I don't
Thank
think I've ever even seen any titan bones. So who knows? Maybe they were the false and last. We
I
haven't
don't
a clue.
know. They're a mysterious type of dragon.
All right, the next question is, the viewer wants to know, why can't they see dragons?
Well, dragons are secretive. They don't necessarily want to be seen. They're very good at hiding in plain sight. They're very agile and able to move through places silently, which can be disconcerting when you're out looking for a dragon. They're very good at hiding and staying concealed. Also, many people will probably be surprised how many dragons are living in their neighborhoods, don't you think?
It is, definitely. When I was much younger, I thought that everything in my backyard was a bird. But as I grow older, I can see that was not a bird. So they're all great at camouflaging, as Leftentant Blackwolf has said. But it is a lot of, you need to almost look for them. If you look around a tree, you may see some mourning doves or cardinal, but if you're closer, that wasn't a cardinal at all. It was a small fire drake, you could say.
Very well could have been, yes indeed.
Are wyverns considered dragons?
Well, as you can see, there's a wyvern on our logo. A wyvern is described or defined as typically a 2-legged dragon. You notice this particular dragon doesn't have legs. Or it has 2 wings. In other words, it's a 4-limbed creature. Whereas many other, especially Western dragons, have 6 limbs by definition. They have 4 limbs, and they have hindmost limbs, and they have wings. As we said before, Oriental dragons sometimes have 2 legs, sometimes have no legs. But in the case of wyverns, another thing that defines it is their breath abilities. Certain wyverns have the ability to breathe fire. Other wyverns are venomous. But the general rule of thumb is that while all wyverns are dragons, not all dragons are wyverns.
I agree.
Can you ride a dragon?
Wouldn't advise it, but...
No. I have a good friend that tried riding a dragon. Wasn't a good idea.
Right.
Dragons, like we've said before, are extremely intelligent creatures. They know what you're trying to do, and they're does get to a point where it just becomes too dangerous. And some dragons are even too dangerous to touch, being very hot or cold or such.
I do know there's an area in the northern Alps of Europe where there are professional dragon riders. These people start riding at an extremely young age. I mean, as soon as they can toddle about, they're on the back of a dragon, possibly even younger. But again, don't try this at home. These are professionals.
Are dragons magical?
They are definitely fantastical. They are gorgeous to watch. They are amazing to observe. Are they magical like fairies?
Yeah, I don't think in the magic user sense or the being able to create something out of nothing, if you were.
I don't think I've ever seen a wyvern with a wizard hat.
No, that would be fun to see, though. There is that one up north, but that's another
You don't
story.
talk about it.
But at any rate, we consider them magical in the sense that they are fantastic creatures that are amazing to behold, and that in that aspect, they bring magic into our lives by observing them. So.
Did dragons live with the dinosaurs?
Interesting question, That's a very good question. There's been a lot of discussion between those of us who observe dragons, dragon watchers and such, with the paleontology societies and such, paleontologists. There's a very real probability that dragons are related to or originated in the times of the dinosaurs. They have a lot of similarities with dinosaurs and birds, as you were talking about. They're not reptiles. They are warm-blooded creatures. Yes, they lay eggs. And I think there are certainly some dragons that have live birth, especially among the sea dragons.
Yes.
So it's a very good possibility. A direct link has not been found that we know of, but some things very, very close. There's a one type of dragon, I forgot the name, or a dinosaur, I'm sorry. I think it's called the Draco Rex, as a matter of fact. And it's about 6-7 feet in length, maybe. And it has the head of a classic Western European dragon. So there may be some relationship there.
Yes.
Can you domesticate a dragon?
No. It goes back to, they are sporadic creatures. That was the word I was looking for before. They do what they want. You try to put a hat on them, they're going to rip it off. So the answer is no, period.
All right, so the next question has to do more about you instead of dragons. What can you tell the viewers about what you wear, including your hat and your medals?
Oh, please, go ahead.
Oh, well, with my hat, you may see these weird things coming off of them. They are supposed to represent a dragon's horn. If you ever look back into history and see hunters that would hunt animals or such, they would wear pelts, maybe like a wolf's pelt or a deer pelt. And it's very similar. It is not that I'm hunting a dragon, but if you want to get closer to a dragon, it's much easier to look like one than a weird two-legged ape walking around.
Yes. What about your goggles that you wear?
Oh, yes. We talked about fire and different breasts and such. And there are most breasts you don't want in your eyes. It's not comfortable, and so we always have protective gear. I normally even have gloves and such, and sometimes I even have my gas mask on, which so most of the time when I'm out hunting dragons or trying to absorb them, I am covered head to toe. You can see my pants and shoes go all the way down, and my sleeves go all the way to my vest.
And that's one thing about you, Dani, is you get much closer to the dragons than I do. In fact, I'm trying pretty much to stay at a distance because I'm observing the dragons and watching their behavior and noting the things that they do or don't do, as it were. So I'm much further away. Today I'm wearing sort of my everyday clothes, if you will. Not so much. A lot of times, if I go out, I might wear a jacket or something that will blend in a little bit more, depending on the environment I'm in. Because that's one thing between rural dragons and urban dragons. And if you're in an urban situation like downtown Staunton, you don't want to be dressed in camouflage because you will be noticed immediately by the dragons. That's very unusual. So my attire is a little bit more suited for that, I suppose, in that situation. As far as the medals, I've been working with dragons for a very long time. And so I've received this particular medal for over 25 years of service in working with, observing, and protecting dragons in various communities.
Yes, you may see that he wears his pins and medals and such. I prefer not to, since they make a lot of noise. If you ever
And
hear
they're shiny.
They're very shiny. With those mini dragons, they like anything shiny. But yes, so I prefer to be much more quiet and stealthy.
Why do dragons like gold?
Shinies.
Shinies, yeah. Dragons are collectors. They're funny. They're, I guess, a lot like crows or magpies and such like that. They like shiny things. They like to collect certain things. And sometimes it's gold. Sometimes it's jewels. Sometimes it's particular types of stone. I knew one dragon who had a fascination with crockery. And they had the most amazing collection of dishes and cups and such that you've ever seen in your life. And some like books and such. And some... It's actually, just like people, it's amazing the things that they can collect in great quantity.
Down in downtown Staunton, there's actually quite a cute sea dragon under the city that collects bottle caps and can lids, and it's quite a shiny collection.
Yeah, a water dragon, not necessarily a sea dragon, because we're a little far up.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but yes, the bottle cap collection. That is amazing. It's the most fantastic thing.
It is very much like magpies and such.
Detail.
Do dragons really kidnap princesses?
Well, that goes back to the collecting thing, doesn't it? Dragons, certain dragons now, not all the dragons. So there's certain dragons that I haven't had a whole lot of experience with, but I've read about them a lot. They love stories. They love books, and a lot of dragons are able to read on by themselves and such. But there's certain other ones that can't. And if you ever notice a thing about dragons, you pick up your average book, if you will, and the large hands or very small hands, as the case may be, are not very conducive for turning pages. So there's been episodes of certain individuals of high stature, well-educated, possibly royalty, who have been borrowed for a certain amount of time to read stories to the dragons. And for the most part, I think it's always turned out pretty well.
They get returned.
Yeah, and sometimes even so do the books.
How many teeth do dragons have?
Oh, that's interesting. We were discussing this earlier.
It does depend on, are you asking about how many teeth in the mouth or the types of teeth? With, I would say, around most land dragons, they would have around 40 teeth, you'd say?
Especially the Western European dragons, yeah. About 30 to 40 teeth.
While sea dragons or sea, water, river dragons are much more like your everyday shark, where they have lots of teeth. Basically, infinite teeth that just keep growing.
Replacing, yes. Mm-hmm.
But if you're saying the types of teeth, most dragons have canines, which are the large teeth in the front.
The fangs.
And then they have molars and other teeth that do those jobs. They have incisors and all that fun jazz.
You're talking about the water dragons. There's certain ones that primarily feed on things like clams and shellfish and such. And they have these huge molars to grind those things. Have you ever seen like the giant clams?
Oh,
The
yeah.
enormous ones? And they've actually found some of those that have been partially eaten by these dragons.
Another type of water dragon, if you've ever seen a whale feed, they feed on like, not crustaceans.
Krill. Right.
And so they almost have like a brush type teeth.
Right, they're the baleen, the fibers.
Much larger sea or ocean dragons have this. So most of the times when you see a large blue dragon in the sea, they'll eat in the tiniest thing there.
Yeah.
What does a dragon sound like?
Wow.
That's your professional opinion, I presume. Well, we talked about the Alpine dragons in Austria. Some sound like birds.
Some do. It was hilarious. My team and I were out looking for a dragon once, and we just saw this bird and kept sounding like it was following us. And it was following us. There was a dragon behind us.
Sometimes when you're hunting the dragons, you're being hunted by the dragons. They have a variety of sounds, and some sounds they make we can't hear with the human ear. In fact, sometimes when we're observing, and I know that you and your team use them, it's like a dog whistle or a horn that is very, very high pitched and will attract a dragon wondering what the noise is or what have you, and the average person can't hear that.
Never make a dragon mating call. We made that mistake. They get very angry.
Imagine.
Do dragons live in family groups?
Ooh.
Yes, they do, as a matter of fact. A lot of dragons live in what we call flights. They live in family groups. They will usually stay in these family groups until they become more mature, where they're ready to go out and explore the world or form flights of their own. I do know that. There's also, I can never remember the Latin for it. Yes, a frontistry. That's a difficult word for me to say. Which is a school for dragons. And hatchlings will be gathered up into these frontistries and schooled in the ways of being a dragon, how to fly, how to do things for themselves, how to get around in the world, as it will. And when they get older, then they go off and explore the wide world.
What do dragons eat?
Well, dragons will eat almost anything that they see. They're very...
Opportunistic, would you say?
That's the word, isn't it?
Yes.
So basically, if they see a sheep, they're going to eat the sheep. They see a shrimp, they're going to eat the shrimp. So it is great. That is one thing with scat. You can actually study what they have eaten in the past. So it is sometimes good to put the gloves on and jump in.
Dragons are primarily carnivores, though many of them are omnivores. So as the weather starts to warm and we go into spring, I was recently writing in the journal about hibernating dragons. When those dragons start coming out, they will be extremely opportunistic. So they will eat everything from insects to animals that they can find, whatever that they might be able to locate, because they need those calories and such that they've lost, and the body weight and everything over the winter time.
Yes.
Are there any dragons that live in the ocean?
Well, we spoke on that a bit. Yes, indeed. In from freshwater dragons to saltwater dragons to lakes, river streams, what have you. There are certainly dragons in every environment that you will find other creatures in. We were talking about the Titans. There's a great dragon, huge dragon called the Leviathan. a Leviathan dragon that is capable of going into great depths for some period of time in the ocean. And we don't really know a whole lot about them. We don't know if they're rare or if they stay down so deep for so long. But they are enormous dragons.
How big are dragons' eggs?
Well, with fog dragons, as we saw, I brought back to the sanctuary a fog dragon egg that's about this big. That's because fog dragons are around the size of an average dragon. But the egg does depend on the dragon and such. If you have, they're very similar to bird sizes. You have a hummingbird, it's a very tiny egg. You have an ostrich, it's a very big egg. But there are dragons that are somewhat like how kiwis lay eggs. You have a dragon that's only about 3 foot, and they end up laying an egg about this big.
How is that even possible?
I haven't a clue. There are some things that I just don't know. It is
Goes
dragon
back
eggs
to
are great.
that magical thing, doesn't it?
Yes.
It seems to be so.
Yes, dragon eggs can be in all shapes and sizes. One thing about dragons is you're not going to see an egg from a fire drake look the same from a sea dragon's point of view or something.
Right, yes indeed.
If you've ever seen a mermaid pouch, almost like what a shark egg is, they're almost like little kelp pulses. They're also called mermaid pouches, I believe.
Yes,
Well, the baby dragon is in that. So sizes can differ from species and type and just the size of the dragon.
I know some of the fire drakes have scaly eggs, and I've also seen some very leathery types of eggs from dragons that live along the rivers and such as well. So yes.
All right, the next question is, have you ever found a dragon's horde? And do dragons only hoard gold and jewels?
That goes back to what we were talking about before. What is your favorite? I think we were talking about this.
Oh my goodness. The bottle caps definitely come in a close second. That was an amazing thing to behold. Favorite dragon horde. It is not dragons don't hoard just gold or such. I think one of my favorite dragon hordes was there was a river dragon that collected basically like little shiny stones. And it almost made me think of a penguin's nest.
Right.
How they'll collect stones and such. But it is kind of amazing. You're like, okay, they're just rocks. But we found out these were called, I think they were called pirate stones. Basically, if you put them under a flame or heat, they glow. And so that has to be my favorite horde that I've ever seen. It just looks like normal rocks, but magic with the dragons.
Understandable why the dragon likes that. Yes, indeed.
Are there any dragons at the North Pole?
Well, there's the legend of Santa Claus, which is a dragon that is supposed to be. I mean, you've heard the story of dogs that help Santa Claus, the person, but Santa Claus is Claus, CLAWS, and I don't know. I think it's a folk tale from people who live up in the north, because visiting up there, they sure did like to regale us with that story, but I don't know. I mean, it's fun to think that might be real. But anyway, I digress. As far as living in the Arctic, absolutely. We know there are snow dragons. We know there are ice dragons. So for dragons to live at the North Pole is certainly not beyond the realm of possibility. Also, remember that there's an ocean underneath all that ice. So there are certainly creatures, there are dragons that are living in that water as well underneath the ice of the North Pole.
Do dragons have a hierarchy or an alpha like in a wolf pack?
It's not an alpha, I would say. It's more of an elder. You have with the families, the flights, and the word I can't pronounce. There is a somewhat hierarchy, but it really is the oldest to the youngest. And it's not like in domestic wolf packs where the youngest is beat up or anything. It's nothing like that.
That's one thing I have found in groups, flights of dragons, is there's extreme reverence for the elder dragons. the young dragons, the hatchlings and such, are taught at a very early age to respect the older dragons, and it's very nice to see that.
Can dragons see in the dark?
Very well, quite well, as a matter of fact.
Of course, you have nocturnal dragons that only see in the dark. But you also have dragons that hunt at night, or the dragons that live in tunnels and such.
Right.
They only see the dark, so of course they should be able to see through it and such.
Yeah.
So the answer is yes.
Yes, indeed.
What does a dragon feel like?
Depends on the dragon again. Some, they're not necessarily slimy or cold. There are certain sea dragons that have a film on them to protect them, I suppose that is. But again, they're not reptiles, and they're not slimy like certain fish are. And they typically have scales. Though, of course, there's the feathered and furred ones, which, of course, are very soft. And there's some, like the sharks you were referring to, where they have that kind of bumpy sandpaper-like
Yeah.
texture to
So of course it goes back to it depends on the dragon.
True.
Do fairy dragons leave gifts like the tooth fairy?
Oh, how I wish.
That would be amazing. But I'm not sure that they would leave presents as much as take presents.
We, down at the sanctuary in the Dop HQ, we had a fairy dragon infestation where we lost our pins, we lost our hats, and they took my hat. They are much more the quite opposite.
How did you ever get it back?
It's in the sanctuary. We just found the nest. That's another great horde. Was the fairy dragon.
I can imagine. Yeah.
They steal anything that they like. They will take. I mean, I guess if they like your teeth, they'll take your teeth.
Oh, that would be
Hopefully not out of your mouth.
bad.
How do dragons bathe?
Dragons bathe dependent on the skin, basically. You're not going to see a mud dragon bathe because mud dragons are mud dragons.
They bathe in
what
mud.
they do. Yeah, they're like pigs. But with fluffy dragons, you may have them glue themselves like a cat, where they have a spiked tongue and they can get anything out, or they could bathe like almost like humans do. They could go find a hot spring or just a small pond and bathe themselves. I've seen some feathered ones bathe themselves like birds.
Yes.
Do you think cats are dragons in disguise?
I do.
Or cats are.
Cats and dragons share many behavioral similarities. Dragons seem to look on the world much as a cat does. They seem to have the same sense of humor that cats do, or lack of sometimes. Yeah, you've seen that in some of the dragons you've worked with.
Yes. Don't let a mini dragon onto your desk. Everything gets knocked off.
Do dragons hibernate?
Actually, they do. In fact, I made mention of that in the latest journal entry I made. There are certainly, we have several hibernating dragons in the dens at the sanctuary right now. They certainly are out in local areas and will be coming out very soon. And so certain dragons migrate, certain dragons stay where they are year round, and others hibernate. So yes, that is something they do.
All right, and the last question. Why did you decide to join the Dragon Preservation Society of Staunton?
That's an excellent question. You want to take that one? I mean,
Oh.
gosh, age before beauty. How about that?
Alrighty. So, why did I join Dragon Preservation Society of Staunton? Well, it really had to do with the dragons. I'm part of the subsection underneath Dragon Preservation Society of Staunton. I'm part of DOP, and it really was the idea of relocating and entrapping and all that brought me to it. It's the idea of keeping these beautiful beasts safe and such. And even from a young age, as I am now, It is something that I get to do, and it makes me happy.
Yeah, you want to help the dragons. And
Mhm.
that's extremely commendable. I was hiking one day. I was out walking, and in a forest, and when I came upon a dragon, in fact, it was the first dragon I'd ever seen, and I was absolutely astounded. And it bore a great resemblance to the Welsh dragon, of course, which is the symbol of my homeland. And so, of course, I was mesmerized, and I was fascinated by this creature. And I was fortunate enough that a friend who was with me was able to get a picture. I was amazed that I could even get that close, or that the dragon would let me do that. It was long before the days of selfies. We didn't know what a selfie was then, but I suppose that's what it all kicked it off, was a dragon selfie. Who would have thought?
Well, thank you, Lady Wildwitch and Leftenant Blackwolf.
Enjoyed having you here today. And thank you, viewers, for being here with us today.
If you have any more questions that you would like to ask, or if you'd like us to do this again, please leave them in the comments. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. It would help a lot. And go check out our website. And if that's it, continue to observe.
Happy observing.